I'd like to give members a bit of background before we go into the substantial motion. Back in 2011, when I got re-elected on this council, South Ham regeneration was in the local plan. It was specified around Kings Road shops. Again, nothing happened. And it's been in every local plan since. South Ham regeneration, Buckskin, Northern, nothing's happened. And then a couple of years ago, Sovereign amalgamated, well, 18 months ago, they amalgamated with Hill Group and they came SNG, and then it started escalating. They did some low-key consultation, they've done some surveys, done some leaflets. The leaflets were like, would you like lovely new streets, lovely new lamps, lovely public transport that runs every half hour on time? And everybody said, yes, of course we would. So then we came to what happened this year in March and April. S&G held some public consultation in Buckskin and South Ham, and I attended one of them in St Peter's Church. And to my horror, there was a display there of 5-storey flats, reconfiguration of Russell Howard Park, disappearing of roads within South Ham, St Patrick's Road, St David's Road. Part of Western Way was gone, and there was going to be a new community hub in Western Way, and that there was a stand there saying that the whole of South Ham was up for redevelopment. And there was also, the horror stand was, there was a stand there, compensation will be given to residents if you've signed up to this. And quite obviously, I left in dismay after seeing that, and quite obviously, residents who live in South Ham and Buckskin were absolutely appalled at this. So after that, I went out and knocked on lots of residents' doors in South Ham, and people were extremely upset about what is going on. People have lived in their homes for generations in South Ham, and they've spent thousands of pounds on their homes, and a lot of them do not want to live, or do not want to move. So it's not about bricks and mortar and about housing numbers, it's about real people who invested in their homes and they don't want to move. And where the S&G have said, oh, they want to the whole of South Ham, the whole of Buckskin, they've blighted the whole areas as well. So we've actually seen a depreciating in house value in the last 2 to 3 months. And S&G are actually coming in and undervaluing as well, trying to buy those homes. So since the meeting in April, as South Ham councils and the Buckskin and Conservative councils, Hampshire and Borough councils, we've met with S&G. We've relayed all this to S&G and said, basically, you need to restart again. You need to go back to basics. You need to identify areas that need regeneration. Let's face it, there is some areas in Buckskin and South Ham that do need regenerating, and you need to consult with the people that it's going to affect. They're currently holding consultation in the community. They have rolled back a little bit, but if you look onto their website, you can still actually see the 5-storey drawings around the Russell Howard Park. So they haven't rolled back completely. And they said they're going to spend the whole summer months listening to the community, and then they're going to go out to design consultation, get in members of the public and be co-opted onto their design boards, and then in the new year we're going to get some firm proposals. So I don't know whether I have to explain to all members what an overview committee is.
1 minute,
sit on overview committees. I mean, I did find it interesting that Councillor Harvey did responding to Marcus's question, saying that he was looking for a steering group. A steering group is behind closed doors, Mr. Mayor. It's not open to the public. It's not transparent, and it's not democratic. Well, when I was chair of the E&I committee, we waived standing orders for the local plan, so members of the public could speak for 4 minutes. And if 20 people from South Ham want to come and speak to that meeting, they can come. Even more if you want to come. So the chair has that discretion. So for all that, you know, why do we want to go behind closed doors, Mr. Mayor? It's open and transparent. So I'm urging members to start regaining the trust of the residents of South Ham and Buckskin, is to support this motion and start getting the process correct. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councillor Dillo, do you want a second speak now or reserve your right?
I'll speak now.
Oh, sorry.
Not quite. Go down. Okay. I'm on. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Firstly, I'd like to thank Marcus and Zena for asking their important questions. It's really great to see members of the public holding this chamber to account directly. I think that's so good. I'm pleased to second this motion because this regeneration scheme is not just another planning proposal. It is a project that will span 20 years. It has the potential to shape the future of South Ham and Buckskin for generations, and residents deserve to be fully represented in that process. I live in Buckskin, and I've knocked on doors just like Gary has in South Ham, and I know that these are proud, tight-knit, multi-generational communities. Yet many residents still don't know when, how, or if they will be affected. Homeowners and tenants are in limbo and understandably worried. This uncertainty is taking a real emotional toll, and it is our duty as their elected councillors to respond with clarity and compassion. And that's why creating this overview committee really matters. It will be better than a steering group, as it will be totally public and totally transparent. It will provide that vital extra layer of cross-party scrutiny, not just over the process, but over the promises made to residents. It will help ensure that all partners, including SNG and this council's administration, are held to account. And it should take into consideration the comments made earlier about governance as well. Importantly, this committee will ensure the voices of South Ham Buckskin residents are listened to, and that concerns are addressed transparently in an open, transparent forum. We need support. They need support from their elected representatives every step of the way. So creating this overview committee is how we can make all this happen for our residents that we represent. Thank you.
Thank you. I've got at least 7 speakers, so I'm going to extend the 20-minute limit on this debate. So first up, Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's fair to say that residents in South Ham and Buckskin have been through an awful lot recently that they have very clearly expressed, very loudly and clear. And I know from the conversation with SNG that they've heard it. I said before, and I'll say again, that SNG lost the trust of the community. That was very clear. And they do need to rebuild that. But they are trying to do so. And at some point, we have to have a transition from attack to work with, to design something positive, to do as Gary rightly says, have regeneration that meets the community's expectations. Now, the only way you do that is to have a sense of collaboration with SNG as an organisation itself. I think we're saying don't have a committee. Have a committee. Set the committee up. I mean, from our point of view, without question, we wholeheartedly support effective scrutiny of council priorities and decisions. But this is an SNG-led project. So I don't want to raise people's expectations and be dishonest in any way, and I know you're not, of suggesting that this overview committee can compel or command SNG to do anything. You can invite them to come along, you can invite them to take part, and that's fair. But I also think it's important, and maybe you do it to interact, but have residents involved directly in what SNG are doing. That's the point of a steering group. Not that they come to the committee and say something over 4 minutes on an irregular basis, or that we as cabinet members come along and say, well, this is what we know so far. It's actually about you directly involved in the process that SNG are going through to shape it, not to talk about it, not to receive papers on it, but to actually shape it. I think that's the really important point. The only way to move this going forward is to be part of that process. So by all means we can set up, and it might be the fact that we've got a new committee being suggested here, but we also have got 3 existing committees of scrutiny as well. There's ways and means of doing this in a way that you will decide. It is not for the executive to decide how things are scrutinised. But I'm just very conscious of taking all residents with us on this journey. Manydown isn't the same. It was a very different thing, and I know it's been referenced in the paperwork and referenced. It was a very different beast because it was our beast. It was our planning application, it was our land and so on. And you could hold the executive directly to account for the decisions they were making as landowner. So I think it's really important that we put residents front and centre of the conversation. If we have a new scrutiny committee, it's going to need to be able to hear their voice, but that's all it will do. And we need to be honest about that. Councillors can talk to councillors, we can have that debate. We all know how overview committees work, like Gary rightly says. We all know how they work, we all sit around a table, we all have a debate, we all have the paper, and we come to recommendations. We should. The point being, that's about us. This is also, and I use the word also, got to be about the residents. So that's why I'm making that point. The residents' concerns have got to be heard loud and clear, and they have to be addressed. So that's why working with SNG, with councillors, to get them part of that process is important. And we need to remember, as the letter from MHCLG made very, very clear to Marcus in reply to his email, housing associations are independent bodies and they run their own governance and scrutiny processes. And so residents need to be part of them, not just ours, but them as well. We need to respect that. You say about transparency, that's the point. I think we need to be transparent and clear on all of those processes so that residents are directly involved and they know that what they say isn't just a speech given at a meeting, but is something that actually feeds directly in to the decisions that are made and what actually then happens. And we need that kind of interaction with SNG. So there are many ways that we can improve the communications. And Gary's right to talk about people being at the heart of this. And that's the point. The whole point of doing this is to improve people's lives in every way we can. And so I think that's why, if you choose to go for a scrutiny committee, that's fine, but we do need to have SNG, have residents at the heart of what they're doing too, and I think that's really important.
Thanks very much. Councillor Gavin James.
Thank you. I won't go through the history of the Manydown Overview Committee as a long-time servant of the Constitutional Working Party, which is the highlight of my diary whenever it appears. It was invented essentially because at that point Manydown wasn't progressing. We had a High Court judgment. There was Manydown decisions were taken by the Cabinet, which was made up entirely of Conservatives, or the Manydown Executive Committee, which was drawn from the Cabinet, which was all Conservatives. And of course there was a joint Manydown committee with Hampshire County Council Cabinet members, which were also Conservatives. There was even a Manydown company, a Manydown Management Committee that looked after the farmland, which was made up of councillors that were adjacent to Manydown, made up from councillors from Oakley, from Winkleberry, and at the time they were all Conservatives. So it was right to have some overview and scrutiny. It served its purpose. It probably went on too long. But it was our project. We had officers employed in this council to run and manage that project. This is very different. The other thing about Manydown, it mattered to everyone. We're talking 9,000 houses. We're talking millions of pounds, tens of millions of pounds being exchanging hands, which meant it had an impact on everyone in the borough. So we all had a voice on it. South Ham and Buckskin is slightly different because actually it's where people live, not where people might live. So it matters more. It needs to be heard more loudly. The voices of the South Ham and the Kempshire and Buckskin councillors should be heard much louder than the rest of the chamber because it's their community. I don't think there's going to be much concern in the deep forest of Evingar about whether the shops move from the top of Kelvin Hill to St Michael's Road or St Peter's Road. That's not going to be key, but this does matter far more. And that's why I can't support this motion, because I think the South Ham councillors should have a massive voice in this. If you set up an overview and scrutiny committee, it is proportionate. We don't have any choice in that. It means that one of the South Ham Labour councillors cannot have a voice on that committee. They can attend and have their 4 minutes and with the chair's blessing a bit more, but they can't involve themselves in debate and discussion. You will, of course, have independents from Tadley or Bramley on that committee, having a very loud voice on a community that, frankly, we're probably not experts on. So I think we need to think about a different model to make sure that South Ham councillors are into the project, are fed into the project. But as an overview and scrutiny committee, you've got one problem of one of the Labour councillors can't turn up. You've got another problem, in fact, there's no officers in this council to present reports to you, and you can only invite sovereign network groups. It could be a very lame committee. So I'd suggest we think about a better way of making sure that the community is heard and the councillors are heard, and heard more loudly than they would be in what's proposed. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tony Jones.
Thank you, Mayor. Can I just say that that's not how the Money Down Committee worked last time round. It was people in the ward that was affected, councillors I'm talking about. So it was made up of people from Buckskin, Winkleberry, Oakley. They were on that committee because it affected them. And that's what we are looking for now. All the people it affects, which happens to be Buckskin and South Ham. So I, as a councillor, same as Gary here, would expect to be on that committee. Or if not, at least 2 on each committee. You know, we do accept that sometimes we've got to give way to our fellow councillors, but I've got every confidence in Gary passing stuff over to me. On the principle of it's got nothing to do with the council, well, I thought we owned land round there. What's happening about that? You know, especially the community centre that's falling down, you know, that's ours. We own it, Basingstoke and Dean. What are we doing with it? They want to build on it, I think. I want a new community centre there. We've been sitting, if I'm honest, there's been some good reaction from the council on the community centre, having the pub being altered, but that does not cover the community centre. We as a borough should be building it, not waiting for SNG to build it in 10, 15 years' time. That's their policy, 20 years. I had a phone call this afternoon, from a resident. They're thinking they're spending some money. They said, but I'm frightened because I'm going to either have to sell up. Should I sell up now or do this? All I could say to them, it's a 20-year thing. I don't think you're going to be done just yet because you've got a good house, a good area, which wouldn't need regeneration. It just needs certain things doing to certain houses. But we don't know. I most probably give them false advice. I've been to I haven't, I've missed one meeting with SNG. And to be honest, we ask the same questions every time. Where are you going to start? Where is the area? It's quite simple, really. You know, 20 years is a long time. I've got nothing against regeneration. I think we need it. I've been fighting it for years. But it's how you go about it. And I'm sorry, they've gone about it the wrong way. So we should be, as councillors, have more information, perhaps from our own officers, what's going on. Because I'm not happy at all. We seem to be, oh, it's not ours. Oh, let's have it. It's a distance. What I was talking about earlier. Oh, it's not our houses, it's SNG's. You know, we run the list, but we can't do nothing about it. Same principle again. It's about time we all woke up and said we're councillors here for a reason. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. First of all, I'd like to extend my apologies. I should have declared an interest earlier. While not an SNG tenant, I do live in South Ham, and as such, I'll be abstaining on this vote. Thank you.
Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, this motion is not simply procedural. It is foundational to the success, integrity and community trust in one of the most ambitious regeneration projects our borough has seen in recent years. This project holds huge potential to improve housing, reshape public spaces, strengthen infrastructure and bring lasting benefits to our residents. But with that opportunity comes responsibility to ensure that what is delivered is accountable, inclusive and aligned with our long-term goals as a borough. That's why I fully support the establishment of a dedicated South Ham and Buckskin Overview Committee. This isn't just another committee for committee's sake. It is about governance done properly. Now, the E&I Committee, while capable, is already heavily tasked with the local plan and borough-wide infrastructure planning. Adding this regeneration to its remit risks insufficient scrutiny of a project that affects the daily lives of hundreds, if not thousands, of residents. I would also like to address the proposal that's been raised around the idea of creating a resident-led project board. At first glance, it may seem like an attractive solution, responsive, local, rooted in the community. And I want to be clear, residents' voices are essential, but we must also be honest about what a project board can and cannot do. Such boards, often by their nature, attract those with time, resources and confidence to participate, and that typically means older, wealthier people. Yet in this regeneration, many of those most affected, tenants, leaseholders and vulnerable households, are less likely to be represented on such a board. If we rely solely on a resident project board, we risk hearing the loudest voices, not the broadest cross-section. Representation becomes skewed. Influence becomes uneven. Moreover, resident boards have no formal powers, no public reporting duty, and no statutory accountability. They can offer feedback, yes, but they cannot request developers attend sessions, interrogate timelines, demand transparency on budgets, or feed recommendations directly into council processes. And that's a problem. Contrast that with a cross-party overview committee, comprised of elected councillors from the affected and neighbouring wards, just as we have done in the Many Down Overview Committee. This committee would be democratically legitimate, publicly accountable and structurally inclusive. It will meet in public, it will publish minutes, it will ask the hard questions and get the answers. And crucially, it can embed the interests of tenants and less heard residents at the centre of its scrutiny. Now, we often talk about stakeholder engagement. Let's be clear, tenants are stakeholders with high interest but too often low influence. We owe it to them to elevate their concerns, not allow them to be diluted or tokenised. A formal committee allows that with transparency, structure and continuity. Now, some have said that this isn't a council-led development. It's a housing association project. Can we really expect them to engage with the council committee? It's true, housing associations are independent organisations. They have their own governance processes. But let's be clear, independence does not mean insulation from scrutiny. When a housing association leads a major transformation in our borough, affecting our residents, our local services and our public reputation, we have not only the right, but the duty to expect transparency. We are not interfering in their internal governance. What we are doing is setting an expectation. If you are delivering change in this borough, in partnership with this council, affecting people in our wards, then you should be prepared to appear before a democratically consulted, public-facing committee to explain your progress and answer legitimate questions. And in practice, most responsible housing associations understand this. They respond to scrutiny because they understand their public legitimacy matters. If any partner refuses to engage, that in itself is a warning sign, and one that this committee will be uniquely placed to identify and escalate. Let me end with this, Mr. Mayor. Regeneration is not just about buildings, it's about people. And the public will not judge us by the size of the investment or the architectural ambition. They will judge us by how involved they were, how well they were listened to, and whether we are held ourselves and our partners to account. So I urge colleagues, let's ensure this regeneration is done with the community, not simply to it. Let's give ourselves and the public a mechanism that's trusted, visible and effective. And let's support this motion and establish the South Ham and Buckskin Overview Committee. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Minus-Band.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I first want to thank Marcus and Zena for speaking to us tonight. But I want to ask if you'd excuse me for a moment, because I suspect for you it feels like this council has let you down. I don't think this council has let you down as badly as it has let somebody else down. We've heard a lot from Councillor Lee about partnership. We often talk in this council about Vivid and S&G being some of our biggest, most strategic partnerships. The organisation that I think this council let down was SNG. SNG absolutely are driving the car of this project. I believe this council was reading the map next door to it to say where it should go, what it should do, how fast it should go, and help it. And this council let SNG down. I believe if we were acting as a good partner, we would have said, don't do that, don't say this, don't go to the public until you've got all the answers, as Tony has described, but that we failed to do. It is why I support this motion, because actually, and I hope this is some reassurance, that contrary to what some people have said about people in the villages not caring what happens to South Ham and Buckskin, I can assure you, Mr. Mayor, that lots of our residents in rural villages have been outraged and said, what on earth is going on in Buckskin and South Ham? Why don't we know, as neighbours of our residents, what's going on, that we can trust them? And I suspect that is our failure as a council. This is the right answer. And it doesn't mean other things can't happen as far as S&G speaking to residents. But I would say, just reframing it slightly differently, that we need to have some faith as councillors that this council is still a good partner to strategic partners that want to do significant things in our borough and get good common sense advice when we are representing what our partners should be doing and working with our residents on, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Ganesh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Like Councillor Lee or Councillor Watts mentioned, the regeneration is not just about building an investment or brick and mortar. It's about people, trust, and opportunity. So the South Ham and Buckskin are communities with deep roots, but also long-standing challenges from housing quality and health inequalities to youth services and employment. Any meaningful regeneration must tackle these issues with the community at its heart. So that's why proper scrutiny is so important. So a dedicated overview committee gives us the tools to ensure accountability, transparency, and the local voice from local representatives. So it will allow ward members and residents to monitor progress, question decisions, and ensure that what is promised on paper becomes reality on the ground. What stops this council to give the opportunity to local representatives, rather than washing their hands off and handing over the entire fate of this project to SNG, as it's a SNG-led project? This isn't about adding another red tape. It's about making sure regeneration is joined up, inclusive, and fair. That's what we don't just build homes, we invest in services, green spaces, like what Councillor Watt mentioned about the community centre, and opportunity for the people in South Ham and Buckskin. That we don't replace, and we don't displace communities, but strengthen them. So it also builds confidence. Residents need to see that this council is not just delivering regeneration to South Ham and Buckskin, but working with them, listening to them, and in every step of the way. A standing committee will help ensure that this isn't a short-term fix, but a long-term commitment. Let's get this right through clear oversight, strong partnerships, and a relentless focus on outcomes that truly matters to local people. So I urge members across the chamber to do the right thing and listen to the residents, listen to the local representatives, and give the opportunity by supporting this motion. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks very much. Councillor Hubert. Don't want to speak. Councillor Kuznescu.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I'm very much in two minds about this motion. On the one hand, I think it's very accurately identified some of the issues at play here, namely that the public has lost trust in this regeneration project, that SNG does need to be held to account, and actually the public should have a strong role in shaping how this community develops in the future. On the other hand, I'm not convinced that an overview committee is going to be the best solution for this. As we've already heard, there are issues around the fact that it's not our project to lead. that we can't compel S&G to come along to the meetings that we've got planned, that potentially there are issues with officers being able to participate in this, and also the fact that there'll be potentially a disproportionate power given to councillors who are nowhere near geographically connected to Buckskin and South Ham. So I'm not convinced, reading the motion, that these objectives that are being put in front of us are actually going to be met by an overview and scrutiny committee. That all said, the one message that's come across very clearly this evening from the debate we've been having is that the councillors for Buckskin and the councillors for South Ham are united in believing that this is the right way forward, and I'm certainly not going to oppose them if that's what they genuinely believe is the right thing for their residents.
Thanks very much. Councillor Howard-Surround.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I came with preparedness and resiliency this evening. I actually had a question that I'm hoping one of the officers might be able to answer, because I remember when I was first elected in Brookvale, I ended up sat on the Down Overview Committee, which obviously is nowhere near Brookvale. Can we formulate the committee to largely be made up based on councillors whose wards are affected, or does it have to be based on the number of seats each party holds? And I have a follow-up depending on that.
An overview and scrutiny committee has to be politically balanced, as required in the Constitution. An overview and scrutiny committee has to be politically balanced, as required in the Constitution.
Lovely, thank you for that. I thought that was the case. It would have been good if those proposing and seconding the motion had come in and known how many of the ward members would have actually been able to sit on the committee based on that proportionality, but never mind. If we can't manage that, I have a lot of sympathy for the residents, and I think they can get much of what they want for a discount by not doing this as part as a council committee. But if that's where they feel that they would like this to go, and that's where their ward members would like this to go, I'm also wondering if it's a constitutional right of the chair of an overview committee to actually attract an allowance of nearly £8,000 for serving as chair, because I don't think anybody deserves it, quite frankly. The entire situation has been handled very poorly, and whoever ends up chairing this committee, if it does go ahead, does not deserve an allowance for chairing it. And I don't think the residents would be in favour of handing another £8,000 to somebody that they consider has let them down. Yeah, so if...
Can you just speak through the chair? Councillor Jones, can you speak through the chair? Sorry. You should know that as previous mayor.
If people aren't willing to chair it for nothing, then maybe that says all you need to know about your councillors and whether this committee is worthwhile at all. Because if they'll turn up regardless of whether they get paid, great. If they're only going to turn up if they get paid, maybe vote differently next time.
I don't see any more speakers, so...
Mr. Mayor, I was curious for an answer on that, whether they are in...
Sorry?
Can we add an amendment to say that this will be a completely unpaid or unallowanced chairship?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So it's not in the current member allowance scheme, but member allowances, as you know, have to go through an independent panel, and then they're recommended to council as part of a scheme.
In which case, would this have to have, as part of being formulated and brought as a committee, would that process happen? Just because I know the chair of the Joint Manydown Committee used to attract an allowance for chairing it, so would the committee be set up and no allowance would happen until the next review of allowances?
It wouldn't happen until the next review, yeah. It wouldn't happen until the next review, and it would be a matter for the independent panel, but then it would come back as part of an amended member allowance scheme, which you would have to vote on as council.
Now, as I previously said, I don't see any more speakers, so could Councillor Watts sum up?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That was a disappointing comment. I did not put this motion forward to get myself or Councillor Dillo or any councillor a chair of a committee grant. As Councillor Jones said, we'd actually do it for nothing. So that's how important it is for the residents of South Ham and Buckskin. So the Many Down Committee was, the constitution of the Many Down Committee was made up, as there's already fellow members have said, from local members. If we want to do it that way, we can do it that way. We have Conservative members in Kempshire and Buckskin. We have Labour members at the moment in South Ham who says we might be independents or reform in a few years' time. So they have every right to sit on that committee. So what's the issue? And even the portfolio holder was on the Many Down Committee. So what is the problem around that? The steering group for S&G, if S&G want a steering group, let them have a steering group. It's fine. But we're the Borough Council. We own Russell Howard Park. We own Westside Community Centre. We funded the doctors and dentist surgery at the church. And if we do get local government reorganisation, we'll have more powers. This authority and combined authority will have responsibility of health, roads. So why should not we be involved? And regenerating is a major platform of the local plan. So we're going to not get involved in it. We're just going to let it go to the local plan. We're going to have a couple of sentences in the local plan report saying, oh, we're going to have a couple of thousand homes regeneration. And they might be in Buckskin in South Ham. But some was supposed to be in Northern, but that sort of disappeared. Mr. Mayor, what is wrong with having an overview committee for as members have already said? South Ham and Buckskin residents have lost their trust of S&G. This is a small step to getting it back. It'd be open and transparent. And members of South Ham and Buckskin will be able to attend that meeting. And we can, as I already said, we can waive standing orders, we can let them speak, and if 20 want to come along, 50 want to come along, if they all want to speak, we can let them speak. They can air their grievances and how badly S&G have actually started this whole process. What have we got to be scared of as a council to be open and transparent and listen to the people of South Ham and Buckskin? So I urge my fellow members to support this motion and get on with it. Thank you.
I believe we're ready to vote. Recorded vote. Okay. Motion's been won.
Motion carried.
That motion's carried. Now on to agenda 19. One more motion for the evening. Councillor Tastain.